You didn't stumble upon this message by accident. There's something within you, a silent echo, a memory without language, that has led you here. You may not be able to explain it, but you've always felt it. That the world is not what it seems. That you are not who they said you were. Maybe you've never voiced it aloud. Maybe you feared it was just your imagination. But somewhere deep in your bones, you've known. Something about you was always different. Not broken, not lost. Just waiting. Waiting for this moment. So before we go further, pause. Notice where you are. Glance around your space. Feel the air against your skin. And if you're watching, type in the comments below. Where are you right now? And what time is it? Because there's something poetic about knowing that across this spinning world, others are remembering too. In bedrooms, offices, quiet corners, midnight hours, early dawns. You are not alone in this. You are part of a great reawakening. This story isn't just being told. It's unfolding within you. You've been raised in a world that told you to trust only what could be touched, measured, or monetized. They praised logic, demanded conformity, and rewarded forgetting. Forgetting your own rhythm, your own knowing, your own light. You were taught to obey the surface of things, to value appearances over presence, noise over silence, data over inner wisdom. But none of that ever fully fit you, did it? Because you didn't come here to conform. You came here to remember. Before culture, before language, before the forgetting began, you existed as pure awareness, a being of energy, frequency, light. You did not think in words. You didn't need names or titles. You simply knew. You communed. You felt the pulse of creation move through you and with you. That version of you is not gone. It's just beneath the dust of habit and noise. It breathes beneath the roles you've played, beneath the names you've answered to, beneath the versions of yourself you thought you had to be. And now, it's calling back to life. There is a truth many have buried, that each soul carries sacred gifts, powers, if you will, not born of ego, but of essence, not to be used for spectacle, but for presence. You were born not only to survive this world, but to shape it with the light you carry. And this light, these powers, are not granted by another. They are inherited, built into your energetic blueprint, waiting to be remembered. You may not remember being telepathic as a child, but perhaps you've had moments. You think of someone and they text. You feel a shift in the air when someone enters a room. You know a truth before it's spoken. Perhaps you've dismissed these things, called them coincidence. But there are no coincidences in a conscious universe. There are only invitations. You may have felt sensations in your forehead, seen flashes when your eyes were closed, dreamt in symbols that stayed with you for days, or simply carried a quiet knowing that no one around you seemed to share. These aren't symptoms of madness. They're symptoms of memory. Not mental memory, but soul memory. You are not malfunctioning. You are reawakening. And the first step to reawakening is this: claiming your identity. Not the identity given to you by family, religion, school, or status, but your true identity. The one that existed before this life and will exist after it. The identity of a being who came here with a mission, not necessarily to become famous or powerful in the worldly sense, but to remember light in the midst of density, to carry the frequency of the sacred into the heart of the ordinary. The world will tell you to doubt that. The world will mock what it doesn't understand. But the ones who awaken do not wait for permission. They do not beg to be believed. They simply remember and walk differently. You are one of those. You don't need to master every technique. You don't need to wait until you feel ready. You need only to say yes, not to me, but to your own soul. Because the moment you say yes, yes, I will remember, yes, I am more than this forgetting, everything begins to shift. You begin to notice the layers of programming you've lived under. You begin to hear the difference between the voice of your ego and the whisper of your higher self. You begin to feel the subtle energies behind the words people speak, the intentions wrapped in silence. You start seeing through masks, through performances, through illusions, and it doesn't make you bitter. It makes you clear, because awakening is not about superiority. It's about responsibility. You remember not to stand above others, but to stand within yourself, firm, open, aligned. To live not as an echo, but as a tuning fork. When you walk into a room, your energy shifts the atmosphere, not because you say anything, but because of who you are being. You don't need to convince anyone of your power. The soul doesn't argue, it resonates. This is the frequency you're stepping into. As this remembrance deepens, you'll begin to encounter echoes of what some call supernatural. But in truth, nothing about this is unnatural. What's unnatural is the forgetting. What's unnatural is pretending we are only flesh, bound by time, limited by senses. What's unnatural is building a world that denies soul, mocks intuition, and medicates mystery. You are not here to uphold that illusion. You are here to pierce it, and it begins by reclaiming what you already carry. Power is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it breathes in silence. Sometimes it simply is. The tree doesn't shout about its roots. The moon doesn't apologize for its glow. And you? You don't need to explain the reason you feel drawn to these words. You already know. You already are. So listen, really listen, not with ears, but with presence. Let the mind soften. Let the soul rise. Let this story not be heard, but felt. Because from here forward, every step is activation. Every breath is a returning. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering someone ancient. And now, having crossed this first threshold, you are ready to awaken your first forgotten power. The one that begins not with speaking, but with sensing. Not with logic, but with listening. Not with noise, but with stillness. The language beyond words is waiting. There's a language you once spoke without ever moving your lips. A language older than any alphabet, older than sound itself. It was the first form of communion before speech divided meaning into fragments. It was the silent transmission of thought, of emotion, of truth, soul to soul. You didn't learn this language. You remembered it. And now, you are remembering it again. Telepathy isn't a fantasy reserved for mystics or science fiction. It is the innate capacity of the soul to connect without separation, to listen without noise, and to feel without explanation. You've already experienced it in flashes, when someone crosses your mind moments before they reach out, or when you feel the weight of another's emotions in a room where no words are spoken. That wasn't imagination. That was resonance. Your thoughts are not confined to your skull. They are frequency, waves, impressions that ripple outward into the field around you. And just as you emit these signals, you are also a receiver, tuned, consciously or not, to the unspoken voices of those around you. The question is not whether you are telepathic. The question is, how conscious are you of it? To awaken this power is not to gain something new. It is to remove the interference. The modern mind is cluttered. Endless loops of inner dialogue, fragmented attention, emotional static. In such noise, the signal is lost. But when the mind becomes still, like a calm lake, it begins to reflect. It begins to pick up on frequencies once drowned in the storm. The key to telepathy is not force, it's purity. Not control, but clarity. A clear mind is a listening mind, and a listening mind begins to hear beyond language. Take a moment now. Breathe. Let the mental chatter settle. Picture someone you love, not their image, but their presence. Now, without words, send them peace. Not as a command, not as a wish, but as a state you enter. Become the peace. And as you do, you may feel it ripple outward. You may sense it land, even if they are across the world. Because energy doesn't care about distance. The soul has no borders. In ancient traditions, telepathy was cultivated through sacred practices. Eye-gazing to merge awareness, silent circles where thoughts were projected, dream rituals where souls exchanged symbols across the veil. We've lost many of these rituals, but the power remains. It waits in the stillness. It waits in the pause between thoughts. There's a story from ancient Egypt of two priests, trained not in oration, but in presence. One would sit in meditation, holding an image in his heart. The other, without words, would begin to describe it. Colors, forms, emotions, not as guessing, but as receiving. They called this the mirror of the two. Because true telepathy is not reading someone's mind. It is joining them in the space where thoughts arise. You've had your own mirrors. Remember that time someone told you, "I was just thinking of you." Or when you walked into a room and felt tension before a word was spoken. These are not accidents. They are glimpses. They are echoes of a deeper ability asking to be reclaimed. And with that reclaiming comes responsibility. You see, every thought you have carries frequency. When you judge someone silently, that energy reaches them. When you bless someone silently, that reaches them too. Whether or not they consciously notice, their field shifts. Their nervous system responds. Their heart feels it. Your mind is not a private place. It is a transmitter. And so the practice of telepathy is not just about connecting, it's about refining. Let your thoughts become sacred space. Let your inner world be a temple. Because every vibration you emit becomes part of the invisible architecture of the world. There's a common misconception that telepathy is about knowing secrets or spying on others. But that's not the path of awakening. True telepathy is heart-centered. It is compassionate. It seeks understanding, not intrusion. It listens for truth, not gossip. And the more you align with this intention, the clearer your channel becomes. There are layers to this gift. At first, it may come as sudden impressions, a thought that isn't yours, but feels present. A wave of emotion that makes no sense until you realize it belongs to someone near. Then, perhaps images or symbols arrive in your inner vision. And eventually, entire phrases, ideas, even conversations unfold within. This is not fantasy. This is energetic sensitivity. The veil between minds is thin, always has been. But you must train your awareness to feel through it without clinging to it. The practice is simple, though not always easy. Sit in silence. Breathe. Drop below thought. Choose someone with whom you have a heart bond. Don't try to speak. Just feel. Let their presence arise, and offer yours in return. Do this regularly, without expectation. And observe what shifts, not just in you, but in them. Often they'll reach out without knowing why. A text, a memory, a wave. That's the signal received. One of the most profound truths of telepathy is this. It reminds you that separation is an illusion. That behind every body is a being. and behind every being is a shared field of knowing. You and I are not speaking through screens. We are meeting in that field right now. The words may appear here, but the understanding happens somewhere deeper, somewhere timeless. Think of this. A mother senses her child's distress from miles away. Lovers feel each other's pain, even across continents. Twins finish each other's thoughts. These aren't anomalies. These are the natural laws of connection breaking through cultural disbelief. Even the trees communicate through unseen networks. Even the whales send songs across oceans. Why would you, a being of consciousness, be excluded from the dance? You were never disconnected. You were only told to stop listening. So now begin again. Make it a daily devotion. Silence your mind, open your heart, and enter the mirror. The more you do, the more fluent you become in this original language. And as your thoughts grow gentler, your field becomes cleaner. Others will feel it. Not just those you know, but strangers, animals, even places will respond to your frequency. You'll walk through life as an instrument of invisible harmony. And as this gift returns, so does something else. Your memory of the world before forgetting. A world where thought was pure, where truth vibrated louder than deception, where connection was not mediated by words but by presence. That world still exists, inside you, around you, within reach. Let this be your practice then, not to perform, not to prove, but to remember. Because when the mind becomes still, it begins to hear. And what it hears is the voice between voices, the space between sounds, the knowing that precedes the need to explain. You are remembering the first language, the one you didn't learn, but lived. And now that your mind has become a mirror once more, you are ready to open the next gate. To awaken not just your ability to hear without ears, but to see without eyes. Close your eyes, not to shut out the world, but to begin seeing it. Not the outer form, but the essence beneath it. For too long, you've trusted only what the eyes can show you. Color, shape, proximity. But you've always sensed there's more. A feeling behind the smile, a glow in the room, a shadow where nothing stands. You've glimpsed the invisible. And now, you're ready to see clearly. Clairvoyance is not a magic trick. It's not the stuff of crystal balls or fortune tellers with vague promises. Clairvoyance means clear seeing, the ability to perceive energy, truth, and the soul's language without relying on physical sight. You were born with this gift. Every child is. It flickers behind their wide-eyed wonder, their imaginary friends, their drawings filled with colors that don't exist in the material world. But culture taught you to dismiss it, to label it fantasy, to turn away from what you knew in favor of what could be explained. But the inner eye never closes. It only waits. And now, it begins to open again. You've heard it called many names. The third eye, the Ajna chakra, the eye of Horus, the lamp of the body. It resides not in mythology, but in your very biology, anchored in the pineal gland, that small, pine cone-shaped organ nestled deep within your brain. Ancient civilizations encoded it in their temples, their rituals, their sacred symbols, not as metaphor, but as map. The third eye is not just an organ of sight. It is a mirror of the soul. It reflects what you carry. A fearful mind will see danger in every shadow. A wounded heart will distort every image. But a pure spirit will witness the world as it is. Radiant, interconnected, alive. You may have already experienced this. Perhaps in meditation, you saw symbols that had no name. Perhaps in dreams, you traveled landscapes more vivid than waking life. Perhaps you've sensed colors around people, or flashes of light near your periphery. These are not anomalies. These are awakenings. There's a story told of Hildegard von Bingen, a 12th century mystic who, though surrounded by religious dogma, began seeing intricate visions of light, geometry, and divine presence. She recorded them not as hallucinations, but as revelations, images that carried knowledge beyond her time. What she accessed was not fiction. It was the soul's memory made visible. Clairvoyance doesn't mean you abandon the physical world. It means you learn to see through it. The veil is thinning. The space between dimensions is becoming more porous. And as your awareness sharpens, you begin to perceive what was once hidden, not because it was far, but because it was subtle. To awaken the inner eye, you must first purify your inner space. Clarity is everything. A cluttered mind reflects noise. A resentful heart distorts images. But a being rooted in stillness becomes a vessel for truth. Light recognizes light. Energy recognizes energy. Let's begin with a practice. Simple but sacred. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Visualize a small violet flame glowing in the center of your forehead. Not burning, but illuminating. With each inhale, see it grow brighter. Not with effort, but with allowance. Now, ask a question. Not with desperation. Not with anxiety, but with openness. Wait. Don't force images. Let them arise, shapes, feelings, flashes. Accept what comes. Write it down afterward. Not to analyze, but to honor. Repeat this daily, and patterns will emerge. Colors will hold messages. Symbols will carry emotion. You will begin to receive information before it arrives in the physical. And no, you are not imagining it. You are interpreting energy. You are seeing essence. The eye sees, but it is the heart that translates. In time, you may begin to see auras, those subtle fields of light surrounding people, plants, animals. At first, a shimmer, then colors, then movement. You'll sense someone's sadness before they speak it. You'll feel truth behind their words, or the absence of it. You'll walk into spaces and perceive their history, their residue, their invitation. Clairvoyance is not limited to the future. It is not confined to prediction. It is the art of presence, of seeing what is beyond disguise. And with it comes sacred responsibility. What you see is shaped by who you are. If you carry unhealed wounds, they will filter your visions. If you chase power, you'll be shown only illusions. But if you walk humbly, you'll become a window through which the divine observes itself. That's why in ancient mystery schools, clairvoyance was never taught first. It was earned through purification of thought, of motive, of desire. The initiate had to become still, honest, sincere. Because the third eye is not a telescope, it is a mirror. Let it show you what needs cleansing, not just what needs seeing. Over time, you'll come to trust this vision. You'll make decisions based on a knowing that defies logic. You'll recognize people you've never met, because you see their energy, not their face. You'll witness moments before they unfold, and you'll no longer fear what you once didn't understand. This is not about becoming supernatural. This is about becoming fully natural again. The ancient ones knew that all is energy. That form is just frequency slowed into matter. Your inner eye doesn't care about skin or surface. It sees vibration. And when that becomes your normal, the world transforms. Conflict becomes misalignment. Lies become noise. Love becomes light. And that's when you become a seer. Not someone who sees what others can't, but someone who sees what others have forgotten to look for. Let that be your walk now. A walk of vision, not just sight. A path of perception, not just understanding. A journey that witnesses the invisible world not as fantasy, but as foundation. And as you grow in this power, let it be guided not by curiosity alone, but by compassion. See with the eyes of the soul. Gaze with the clarity of love. Because when you do, others begin to remember too. Your presence becomes a mirror for their own awakening. You're not here to impress. You're here to illuminate. So go ahead. Let the images come. Let the colors speak. Let the symbols whisper their stories. And when you close your eyes, smile. Because now you know. Closing your eyes never meant going blind. It meant beginning to see. And now, having opened the eye of vision, you are ready to awaken another voice. Not the one that speaks aloud, but the one that has always whispered truth beneath the noise. You've always had two voices inside. One is loud, busy, analytical, constantly narrating your every move like a restless commentator. It questions, plans, judges, fears. This is the voice you've been trained to trust. But there is another voice, one so quiet that most never notice it. It doesn't speak often, and when it does, it doesn't explain. It knows. That voice is your intuition. It doesn't speak in words or arguments. It arrives as a pull in your gut, a warmth in your chest, a sudden yes without logic, or a no you feel in your bones. It is soft, but when you follow it, doors open. And when you ignore it, something breaks, quietly within. You've known this voice. You've felt it urge you to leave a room before something went wrong, or draw you to a person you didn't understand but later turned out to be exactly who you needed. You've stood at forks in the road where logic said one thing, but something deeper said another. That something deeper was not fear. It was not doubt. It was the part of you that already knew. Intuition isn't magic. It's memory. A kind of divine memory that exists outside of time, tapping into what your soul already sees. It doesn't guess the future. It remembers the path your spirit is most aligned with. Think of it as your soul's compass. In the ancient temples of Egypt and India, initiates were not taught to think better. They were taught to become still, so they could distinguish between the voice of ego and the whisper of the higher self. Because intuition doesn't arrive when you chase it. It arrives when you become quiet enough to hear. But quiet is not easy in a world that glorifies noise. We are raised to favor logic, calculation, external proof. We're told to make pros and cons lists, to gather more data, to wait until it makes sense. Yet the greatest decisions of your life, the ones that changed everything, were likely not made with logic alone. They were made with a knowing, a feeling, an unshakable certainty that had no explanation. That is intuition. And it's not random. It's precise. It speaks in the first moment, never the second. It doesn't shout over fear. It waits until you're ready to listen. So how do you tell the difference between intuition and fear? It's simple. Fear feels tight, dramatic, urgent. It panics. It shouts. But intuition feels quiet, even when it warns you. It's calm. It gives no explanation. It just is. You don't argue with it. You either follow it or feel the consequences later. And those consequences aren't punishment. They're reminders. When you ignore intuition, life doesn't collapse, but it detours. The lesson becomes louder, the tension sharper, the path longer. Intuition always gives you the gentle road first. When you decline, it offers the necessary one. There's a reason the word guidance contains the word dance. Your intuition is not static. It moves with you. It weaves in rhythm with your soul's growth. And when you follow it, life begins to unfold not as chaos, but as choreography. So how do you strengthen this power? You practice. You don't wait for big moments. You begin with the small ones. The fork in the road on your morning walk. The choice to send a message or not. The sense that a certain food or color or person is aligned today. You ask, not the mind, but the body. Try this now. Sit quietly. Think of a small decision. Maybe something like, should I take that opportunity? Now, shift your awareness to your solar plexus, your gut. Feel. Don't think. Does your body open or close? Expand or contract? That first sensation, that's your answer. Over time, your body becomes a sacred instrument. Your chest will lift when something is right. Your breath will catch when something is wrong. Your shoulders will soften in the presence of alignment. This is not superstition. This is somatic intelligence. And the more you listen, the louder it gets. There are layers to intuition. It begins with gut feelings. Then comes emotional resonance, what feels true in your heart. Then, inner sight, flashes, symbols, visions. Then, pure knowing, a wordless certainty that arrives like lightning. Some call this the Buddhic plane, a realm of unity where separation dissolves and all knowledge exists simultaneously. When your intuition connects to this level, it stops being reactive. It becomes proactive. You don't just respond to life, you anticipate it. You live as if the future is already whispering to you because it is. Let me share a story. In the early 1900s, Harriet Tubman, the woman who led hundreds of enslaved people to freedom, spoke often of divine signs she received before taking action. She never explained them logically. She simply said she would feel a pull, a vision, or a sudden knowing, and she trusted it. That trust saved lives. She wasn't guessing, she was listening, and you are just as capable. Intuition isn't about control, it's about surrender. Not to fate, but to flow. It's trusting that the map is already written inside you, and that each moment of stillness reveals the next step. So build a relationship with your intuition like you would with a wise friend. Show up daily. Ask. Listen. Act. Reflect. And don't worry about mistakes. Even when you misread it, it teaches. Even silence is guidance. Over time, something beautiful happens. You begin to move in harmony with something greater. Synchronicities stack up. You meet the right person at the right time. You say no to things that would have broken you. You say yes to things that build you. And people around you will ask, how do you always know? But you won't know how to explain it. Because it's not a formula. It's not a system. It's a remembrance. You'll stop asking for signs. You'll become one. And when others are trapped in overthinking, you'll be still. When others doubt, you'll know. When others delay, you'll act. And your life will become not just more efficient, but more aligned, more alive. So let this be your vow, to stop outsourcing your knowing, to stop asking the world for answers your soul already carries. Let the whisper become your compass. Let the pull become your path. Because when the mind analyzes, the soul already knows. And now, with your inner compass awakened, you are ready to remember that you are not just thought, but energy. And energy moves more than emotions. It moves matter. You've been told that the world is solid, that objects are fixed, that nothing moves unless something pushes it. But what if that wasn't the full truth? What if your thoughts were more than private flickers inside your mind? What if they touched the air around you, shifted energy, influenced outcomes, and even bent what you once believed was unchangeable. Telekinesis isn't fantasy, it's forgotten physics. The ancient mystery schools didn't dismiss the idea that the mind could move matter. They trained it. They taught initiates to see thought not as an abstract thing, but as vibration, as influence, as directive force. The great alchemists, yogis, and seers weren't mystics because they rejected reality. They were mystics because they mastered it. And the first principle they lived by was this: all is mind. You see, what we call matter is not solid. It is energy vibrating at different speeds, taking on the appearance of form. Your body is made of it, your thoughts are made of it, and your emotions amplify it. When your mind, body, and heart are in coherent alignment, something extraordinary happens. Your vibration begins to interact with the field around you, not passively, actively. You don't just experience the world, you shape it. You've already done this, even if you didn't call it telekinesis. Have you ever walked into a room and everyone stopped talking without knowing why? Have you ever concentrated so deeply on a candle flame that it flickered without wind? Have you ever felt your body respond to someone's unspoken anger across the room? That's energy influence. That's mind-affecting matter. The question is not whether you can do it. The question is, can you do it consciously? To develop telekinetic influence is not about bending spoons or levitating objects to impress anyone. That's entertainment. Real telekinesis is subtle. It's intimate. It begins in the invisible. Take a moment to understand this truth. Your will is a force. When focused, it's like a beam of light, capable of cutting through fog, warming metal, even lighting fire. But only if that light is concentrated. A scattered mind has no impact. A noisy heart sends distorted signals. But when you are still, truly still, and your intention is pure, your field begins to command. Here's a practice that dates back to ancient temples: the flame of will. Light a candle. Sit before it. Don't stare with force. Merge with it. Breathe gently. And as your breath slows, feel the boundary between you and the flame dissolve. Now, become the flame. Feel your energy wrap around it. Not controlling, not pushing, just coexisting. Then, in that still space, offer a simple, subtle intention. Flicker. Shift. Rise. Don't expect fireworks, expect resonance. And you may be surprised. A flicker may come, a lean, a surge, or nothing at all. But the sensation of union, of communion, of oneness, that's the beginning. Because telekinesis begins not with dominance, but with intimacy. It is the dance between your frequency and the frequency of the object. You don't force it to obey. You allow it to align. This is why the adepts of the past emphasized purification. The ego wants to control, but the soul wants to harmonize. And it is only when your will is in service to harmony that true movement begins. Telekinesis also reveals itself in the emotional body. Ever noticed how your anxiety makes electronics glitch? How your calm stabilizes chaos around you? How your joy spreads through a space like perfume? You're not imagining it. Your field radiates. Your intention imprints. Your energy has weight. Let's take it deeper. Imagine standing near a glass of water. Place your hands over it, not to do anything, but to offer calm, gratitude, stillness. Then drink it. Feel the difference. That water is no longer neutral. It carries imprint, structure, intention. You can do the same with rooms, with objects, with your own body. When you hold a wound with love, you alter its structure. When you breathe into a tense space, you shift the molecules. When your thoughts become aligned with divine will, the world begins to listen. Not because you're special, but because you're coherent. Coherence is the key. Most people live in internal chaos, thinking one thing, feeling another, and doing a third. That fragmentation weakens the field. But when all parts of you move together, thought, emotion, action, you become a tuning fork, and reality responds. This isn't abstract. Quantum physics is slowly catching up. Experiments show that observation changes behavior, that attention shifts particles, that consciousness isn't a byproduct of the brain. It's a force embedded in space itself. And you are that force, remembering itself. Let me tell you a story. In a monastery high in the Himalayas, there are monks who train not with books, but with breath. They sit in snow and melt it with body heat. They dry wet sheets wrapped around them with willpower alone. They are not defying nature. They are harmonizing with it. They are moving energy with energy. You can do the same. No need to start with miracles. Start with presence. Before you touch anything, pause. Before you speak, breathe. Before you act, align. Notice how your phone responds when you're calm. Notice how plants turn toward your hand when you radiate stillness. Notice how children and animals gravitate toward your field when you are peaceful. These are signs. You are already affecting the field. Now, it's time to own it. But always remember, with power comes purity. If your intentions are distorted, your influence becomes destructive. If your will is clear, your presence becomes healing. The saints didn't move mountains because they wanted attention. They moved mountains because their vibration matched love itself. The mountain didn't resist. It recognized. So ask yourself now, what are you trying to move, and why? Let your will be an instrument of harmony. Let your thoughts become prayers. Let your actions be rituals of alignment. The more you do, the more the world begins to bend. Not because you forced it, but because you invited it. You were never stuck. You were always shaping. And now, you're beginning to see it. The next time someone says, "You're glowing today," don't laugh it off. Smile. Because now you know, it's not charm, it's vibration, it's coherence, it's energy moving through matter. And now that you've remembered this, you're ready to go deeper, to see beyond the present moment, to feel the whispers of what's coming before it arrives. You've felt it before, the quiet knowing before the event, the dream that unfolded days later, the sense that something was about to happen before it did. You may have dismissed it as coincidence. You may have silenced it with logic. But deep inside, a part of you recognized the truth. Time is not a line, it's a field. And your soul remembers the future. This is precognition. It's not prediction. It's not fortune-telling. It's not about control. Precognition is the soul's ability to feel vibrational patterns before they solidify into form. It's your consciousness reaching ahead, brushing against timelines, sensing which way the wind is about to turn. You've done this more often than you know. That time you canceled plans and later heard of the accident. The unease you felt before walking into a meeting that shifted your life. The dream that haunted you and then unfolded detail by detail. These aren't accidents. They are echoes, glimpses, invitations. Because time, as you've been taught to understand it, is a limited perception. The soul exists outside of clocks, outside of linearity. It dances through possibilities. It tastes potential outcomes. And sometimes, when you are quiet enough, aligned enough, open enough, it sends whispers back to your waking mind. Precognition arises in stillness, in dreams, in emotion, in surrender. It's not forced. It's not summoned like a command. It arrives like a breeze through an open window, and only those who are still enough can feel it. Let's break the illusion. The future is not a place you go. It's a pattern you align with. In esoteric traditions, particularly in theosophy and hermeticism, it is said that every thought, action, and intention leaves an imprint in the causal plane. Like grooves on a record, those imprints shape the probability of what comes next. The more energy a timeline receives, the more likely it becomes. And your soul, vibrating beyond physical senses, reads those grooves like braille in the dark. Think of it this way. The present moment is the soil. Your thoughts are the seeds. Your emotions are the water. And the future is already budding beneath the surface. Your intuition senses those roots before they bloom. To develop this gift, you must learn to recognize the difference between noise and signal. The mind creates noise. What if? What could? What should? But the soul sends signal. Calm, clear, persistent. You don't need to understand it. You only need to respect it. Let me share with you an ancient practice from dream mysticism. Before you sleep, place your hand over your heart and whisper, "Tonight, I open to true vision. Show me what I need to see. Not what you want, not what would impress, only what you need." Then, allow yourself to drift. Upon waking, write what you remember, even fragments, even colors. Over time, a pattern will emerge. Messages will repeat. Symbols will reveal themselves. This is not fantasy. This is spiritual technology. In many cultures, Tibetan, Sufi, indigenous, dreams were not considered illusions, but sacred messages. The Greeks built temples for dream healing. The Egyptians trained their priests to read futures through symbols seen in trance. The Essenes called dreams the letters of the soul. You are not inventing these visions. You are receiving them, and dreams are only one gateway. Precognition can strike in moments of strong emotion, love, grief, awe. When the mind softens, when the ego steps aside, the veil thins, that sudden image you get before someone calls, the sense of déjà vu that floods your body, the knowing that a conversation will change everything before the first word is spoken. It's all signal. You've always had this power, but the world trains it out of you. It tells you to wait for confirmation, to trust experts, to demand proof. But spiritual truth does not wait for permission. It waits for readiness. And you are ready now. Start small. When a name pops into your mind, write it down. When you feel the need to shift your routine, follow it. When an image keeps returning, explore it. You don't have to interpret everything. You only have to listen. Trust is built through consistency. Precognition is not meant to feed your control. It's meant to expand your surrender. Because once you realize you can feel what's coming, you also realize you can shift what's coming. That's the deeper teaching. The future is fluid. You are not a prisoner of fate. You are a weaver of timelines. When you sense a path that doesn't resonate, you don't have to walk it. You can realign. You can choose differently. You can plant new seeds. In ancient prophecies, the greatest seers were not those who predicted disaster. They were the ones who saw it and shifted it. They altered the trajectory through awareness, through ritual, through presence. That is your role now. You are not meant to witness suffering and shrug. You are not meant to see chaos and freeze. You are meant to recognize it and recalibrate. Your presence is not passive, it is participatory. And when you become conscious of the field, you stop waiting for life to happen to you. You begin shaping it. So how does this change your life? It brings peace. Because you no longer walk blind. You sense. You feel. You respond. You stop clinging to the illusion of certainty. You trust flow. You trust the signals. You begin to move with the river, not against it. People around you will begin to notice. How did you know? They'll ask. And you'll smile. Not because you knew the future, but because you remembered how to listen. Precognition isn't about being right. It's about being ready. Let it humble you. Let it guide you. Let it protect you and call you toward greater service. Because the more you use this gift, the more you'll be asked to use it wisely. Not to impress, but to uplift. Not to escape, but to prepare. And when you prepare in alignment, the world around you shifts with grace. You become the calm before the storm, the light before the dawn, the whisper before the thunder. So now, breathe. Feel into this moment. Let it stretch beyond the edges of your body. Let it touch tomorrow, softly. Let your soul dip into what is becoming. And as you return to this breath, know that the next gift awaits. Not one that sees the future, but one that touches it. One that heals, harmonizes, and restores. Through hands, through breath, through presence. Your hands were never just hands. Your breath was never just breath. You are more than skin and bone. You are conduit, current, conductor. Within you flows the very energy that animates stars, that grows forests, that weaves galaxies. And this energy, when remembered, does not just live in you, it moves through you. You are a healer, not because you studied techniques or earned titles, but because your very presence was designed to restore harmony. The only question is, have you remembered how? Energy healing is not a performance. It's not a ritual for others to witness. It's what happens when a soul chooses stillness, presence, and love, and offers it to the world without agenda. The laying of hands, the whisper of breath, the sacred silence between words. These are not props. They are the tools of the infinite flowing through a willing vessel. In ancient times, healing was not a profession. It was a way of being. In temples of Egypt, India, and Tibet, healers were trained to purify their energy first, to become hollow bones, to step aside and let the divine move through them. They weren't fixers, they were rememberers, those who reminded the body, the heart, the spirit of its original frequency. You have felt this before, that moment when someone placed a hand on your shoulder and your tears stopped. Not because they said anything, but because their presence said everything. That deep breath you took in the forest, and suddenly the ache eased. The time you simply stood beside someone in pain, and they said, "I feel better now." These aren't coincidences. They are your true nature at work, because your presence is medicine. Your electromagnetic field extends beyond your body. It carries vibration, intention, emotion. When your heart is coherent, calm, loving, open, it emits waves that entrain others. Like a tuning fork, you bring them back into rhythm. This is not poetic metaphor. It is measurable science. But even beyond the science, there is mystery. And mystery is where the sacred lives. Let's begin with a practice. Sit quietly. Place your hands palm up on your lap. Breathe. Imagine a soft, golden light descending from above your head, entering through your crown, flowing down your spine, filling your arms, pooling in your palms. Don't visualize forcefully. Feel it. Now place your hands gently over your heart, or anywhere you carry tension. Don't try to heal. Just be present. Let the energy do what it knows. Remain in that space for a few minutes. Then breathe and release. What you're doing here is not fantasy. It's remembrance. You are reawakening your role as a transmitter of harmony. Across cultures, this was known. The Reiki healers of Japan, the pranic healers of India, the curanderas of South America, the breath workers of Africa, the early Christians who laid hands and spoke peace, all carried the same truth. Healing is not what you do. It's what you allow. But there is a requirement. You must align. You must cleanse the noise from your field. Not to be perfect, but to be clear. Because energy follows intention, and intention follows vibration. If you are angry, scattered, or ego-driven, the energy you channel will reflect that distortion. But if you are present, still, and sincere, the current flows pure. Let's be clear, you are not the source. You are the bridge. The ego says, I healed them. The soul says, it flowed through me. Humility is the foundation. Gratitude is the fuel. Surrender is the method. The greatest healers in history were never the loudest. They were the most surrendered. This is why love is the highest medicine. When your hands are filled with compassion, they become gateways. When your breath carries forgiveness, it becomes a balm. When your gaze carries acceptance, it becomes light. You've felt this. When someone truly sees you, without judgment, without agenda, you begin to heal. Not because they did anything, but because they held space for you to remember yourself. This is the essence of energy healing. To remember wholeness where others have forgotten. Not to fix, to reveal. Your body already knows how to heal. Your cells remember balance. Your spirit longs for coherence. The healer doesn't override these truths. They invite them forward. And you don't need robes or titles to do this. You only need presence. The next time someone is hurting, place your hand on your heart. Then gently place it on theirs. Say nothing. Just breathe. Just hold space. Feel the current flow, not from you, but through you. Watch their shoulders soften, their breath deepen, their eyes glaze with peace. You are not imagining it. You are transmitting it. Let me tell you a story. In the Amazon, there are shamans who heal not with medicine, but with song. They sing what they call icaros, melodies that carry intention, vibration, memory. They sing into the illness, into the trauma, into the soul. And somehow, something shifts. Because sound, like touch, is energy. Because presence, when aligned, becomes a healing frequency. You don't have to sing, but your voice can carry medicine too. So can your silence. So can your thoughts. When you pray for someone, they feel it. When you visualize them surrounded by light, their field shifts. When you forgive them in your heart, the energetic cords between you begin to dissolve. This is not metaphysics. This is sacred biology. You are a healer, even in the invisible. But remember, healing is not always comfortable. It may stir emotion. It may bring what was buried to the surface. It may challenge stories people have clung to. So be gentle. Be patient. Be present. And most of all, be empty. Let the divine intelligence guide you. Trust what you feel. Let your hands go where they are called. Let your breath flow where it is needed. Let your presence be the prayer. And when you are done, don't claim it. Give thanks. Bow inward. Walk away in humility. Because when you heal from the soul, it's not about credit. It's about coherence. So now, take a deep breath. Feel your hands. Feel your heart. Feel the space around you responding. You don't have to understand it fully. You only have to trust that healing has begun. And now, dear vessel, with the current flowing through your being, you are ready for the final gift. Not one of restoring others, but of remembering who you are beyond this body, of leaving the form to discover your formlessness, of flying into realms that speak not to your flesh, but to your infinite self. There is a moment, just before sleep, when your body lets go, but your mind remains aware. You've felt it, that floating sensation, that sudden drop, that startling jolt back into your body, heart racing, breath caught. It felt like falling, but you weren't falling. You were rising, lifting, peeling away from the density of form. You were beginning to remember that you are not the body. Astral projection is not a myth. It is not hallucination. It is not the invention of seekers desperate for escape. It is one of the most sacred abilities your soul has ever carried. The power to leave the physical form, to explore realms beyond time, and to return with memory, with healing, with truth. You've done it already, every night, in dreams. Your consciousness detaches from the physical shell and journeys into the astral. Most don't remember, but some do. Some wake up with images, sensations, messages. Others have felt the unmistakable awareness of seeing their body from above. That was no dream. That was departure. Your astral body is real. It is the luminous sheath that overlays your physical form, and it is not bound by gravity or geography. It can travel through walls, across time, into dimensions where language has no use and energy is the only currency. But this is not a game. This is initiation. In ancient Egypt, astral travel was called the journey of the Ba, the soul leaving the Ka, or body, to commune with higher wisdom. In India, yogic sages mastered siddhis, powers of conscious travel beyond the flesh. In indigenous traditions, it is called dream walking, spirit flight, soul travel. All different names. One truth: you are not confined to this body, and once you experience that, you can never again believe that death is the end. You know because you've left and come back. The process of astral projection begins with surrender, not effort. The physical body must relax completely. The mental body must remain gently awake. The key is balance, just enough awareness to stay present, just enough softness to drift. Try this sacred preparation. Before sleep, lie flat on your back. Dim the lights. Place your hands over your heart. Breathe deeply. As you exhale, repeat silently. I remain conscious as I move between realms. Visualize your body glowing with light. Imagine a soft hum in your spine. As your body slips towards sleep, stay anchored in that hum. You may feel vibration, buzzing, heaviness, or lightness. You may sense yourself rolling, floating, lifting. If fear arises, greet it with calm. If excitement stirs, breathe it away. Do not cling. Do not chase. Just allow. When the moment comes, you will feel it. A separation, like sliding out of a tight suit. And then, suddenly, you're above the body, looking down. Your physical form remains, but you are soaring. At first, stay close. Explore the room. Notice the subtle differences. Light feels lighter. Sound is felt, not heard. Thought becomes movement. You need only desire to go, and you are there. The laws of the material no longer apply. Eventually, you'll explore beyond. You may find yourself in the middle realms, where other travelers walk, some aware, some asleep. You may visit loved ones, receive teachings, or enter places of light geometry, vibrating libraries of wisdom. You may meet guides, gentle beings of resonance, offering knowing without words, but always return with care. Ground, give thanks, journal, rest, because the more you travel, the more you'll notice something. Your fears begin to fade, not because you no longer care, but because you now remember that form is temporary, that you are not this body, that you've been here before and you'll be here again, and that truth changes everything. You begin to live with more presence, not less. You stop clinging. You start choosing. You let go of what drains you. You trust your soul's compass. You embody your purpose more fully, because you've glimpsed what lies beyond the veil. Let me tell you a story. Robert Monroe, a man with no spiritual background, began experiencing spontaneous out-of-body events in the mid-20th century. He wasn't seeking mysticism. He was a radio executive. But what he discovered changed the course of his life and the lives of thousands. He documented his experiences, developed sound technologies to support safe travel, and helped bring astral projection out of secrecy and into awareness. Because this gift is not just for mystics, it's for you. And it's not about escape, it's about expansion. When you leave the body, you don't abandon your life. You return to it with more clarity, more peace, more purpose. You no longer fear death because you've touched what lies beyond it. You no longer chase meaning because you've remembered that you are meaning. But protection matters. Before every journey, surround yourself in light. Call in divine presence. Visualize golden shields, sacred symbols, familiar guides. You are moving through subtle realms. And just as in the physical, discernment is required. Do not travel with curiosity alone. Travel with reverence, with intention, with clarity. Because when you leave your body, what you carry is magnified. If you bring fear, it shapes what you see. If you bring ego, it distorts what you receive. But if you bring love, you will walk through realms where light itself speaks in silence. And one day, you will meet a version of yourself, your higher self, radiant, peaceful, infinite. Not as fantasy, but as recognition. You'll realize, I have always been this. I just forgot. And when you return to your body, it will feel different. Sacred, temporary, precious. You'll walk softer, speak slower, love deeper. Because once you've touched the sky with your soul, the noise of the world fades. And from this new altitude, from this expanded awareness, a deeper question arises. Not where can I go next, but why have I come here? The answer is waiting in the next remembrance. Not a gift that takes you higher, but a discipline that brings your power back to earth. That aligns your presence with service. That transforms light into action. You've touched the stars. You've felt your soul drift beyond the veil and return with memory, with grace. But the journey upward is only half the path. The real work, the sacred work, is to bring that light down, into your hands, into your words, into your choices, into your life. Because all the power in the world means nothing if it's not pure. The path of power is the path of purification. Not in the moralistic sense, but in the energetic one. Your gifts, telepathy, clairvoyance, intuition, influence over matter, healing, astral travel, are real. They are yours. But they are also amplifiers. And whatever you carry inside will be magnified through them. If you carry fear, it will distort what you perceive. If you carry pride, it will shape what you attract. If you carry unresolved pain, It will echo in every space you touch. That's why power without alignment becomes destruction. But power with presence becomes transformation. The ancient initiates understood this. Before they were ever taught sacred techniques, they were led through purification, not to suppress their humanity, but to align their essence, to clear the emotional body, to discipline the mind, to soften the ego, to open the heart. Only then could power flow cleanly. And the same is true for you. There is no shortcut, no bypass, no secret hack. The highest power lives in the most grounded vessel, and that vessel must be clear. So ask yourself now, what energy are you broadcasting? Do your thoughts uplift or drain? Do your words leave harmony or confusion? Does your silence carry judgment or presence? These are not trivial questions. They are the tuning fork of your field, because everything you do, say, think, or feel sends a signal. And the more sensitive you become, the more obvious it becomes. There is no private energy. The universe responds not to what you want, but to who you are. That's why the final gift is not a new ability. It is a new way of being. You are being invited into energetic mastery, not to control others, but to harmonize with life itself. Not to impress, but to bless. Not to escape, but to embody. Let me tell you a story. In a hidden monastery in Burma, there lived a monk who could change the temperature of the room with his breath, summon animals with silence, and remain untouched by fire. Western scientists were baffled. When asked the secret, the monk simply said, "I purify my thoughts. Every day, that is all. That is not small. That is the work. Because when your inner world is clean, your outer power becomes precise. When your motives are pure, your actions ripple far beyond what you see. You become trusted by the field, supported, empowered, activated. This is not about being good. This is about being clear. There is a strength in silence. There is a power in restraint. When you can feel someone's emotion and not react, that is power. When you can hear judgment but offer peace, that is mastery. When you can move energy without needing credit, that is spiritual adulthood. Because ego seeks applause, soul seeks alignment. You've been given glimpses of your potential. You've felt what's possible when you remember. But now you must ask, what are you devoted to? Are you devoted to truth or comfort? To expansion or validation? To embodiment or escape? Devotion doesn't mean perfection. It means direction. It means waking up each day and choosing, again and again, to live as a vessel of light. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. This world does not need more gifted people. It needs more aligned ones. Those who walk their talk. Those who radiate integrity. Those who do the inner work when no one is watching. Because power without purity burns. But power with purity warms, heals, awakens. You've likely noticed this already. The more you open, the more sensitive you become. You can no longer tolerate certain spaces, certain people, certain foods, sounds, even thoughts. That's not weakness. That's refinement. Your soul is tuning itself. You are no longer available for what's out of alignment. And that's good. That means the field around you is becoming cleaner, stronger, more exact. Use that power wisely. When you speak, let it be with care. When you create, let it be with intention. When you touch, let it be with presence. Because everything carries frequency now. And when your frequency becomes coherent, the universe begins to move through you effortlessly. You speak, and others listen. Not to your voice, but to your vibration. You walk, and others feel calmer. Not because of your steps, but because of your state. This is the path of embodied power. Not flashy, not loud, not dramatic, still, strong, silent. You'll find that people begin to tell you things they've never told anyone, that animals are drawn to you, that synchronicities become constant, that you can shift a room with a glance, not by force but by frequency, because the most powerful being in the room is not the loudest. It's the one who is most aligned. So begin purifying, not through shame, but through love. Journal your triggers. Breathe through your reactions. Offer forgiveness. Let go of old stories. Speak truth even when your voice shakes. Not because you're trying to be enlightened, but because your soul is done playing small. Your powers are real, but your purity is what makes them safe, potent, sustainable. This is what allows you to serve, not from ego, but from essence. And that service leads to your final integration. You've remembered the gifts. You've awakened the current. Now you must return to the world, not to fit in, but to radiate, not to explain yourself, but to embody what others have forgotten. Because the world doesn't need your explanation. It needs your vibration. And that vibration, now fully activated, is ready to return home, to where all the gifts converge, to where you become not just the carrier, but the expression of everything you've remembered. You've crossed the thresholds one by one, through the whispers of telepathy, the visions of clairvoyance, the compass of intuition, the resonance of will, the memories of the future, the flow of healing, and the liberation of soul travel. Now, the path begins to fold in on itself, like a sacred spiral returning to center. This is not the end. This is embodiment. Because remembering the powers is only half the truth. The other half is living them. You are not just a soul who glimpsed ancient abilities. You are now a being who must walk with them. Let every word you speak, every breath you take, every moment of stillness become the ground where these energies take root. Let your life become the ritual. This is the moment where you realize the journey was never about reaching some elevated state. It was about returning to what was always within reach, your presence. Presence is the great integrator. It is where the powers stop being phenomena and start becoming your normal. Presence is the temple where telepathy becomes empathy, where clairvoyance becomes discernment, where intuition becomes leadership, where healing becomes kindness, and where astral sight becomes daily wisdom. This is the power that does not perform, it radiates. You've seen what happens when power lacks presence. The gifted become lost in identity. The awakened chase novelty. The channels turn into performers. But when power is held in presence, it becomes invisible. And in that invisibility, it transforms everything. Because the most potent force in the room is not the one talking about their gifts. It's the one who has integrated them so deeply that they no longer need to be mentioned. You've also realized something else along the way, that each power calls forth responsibility. When you sense others' thoughts, you must hold their privacy sacred. When you foresee timelines, you must guide without manipulating. When you touch another's energy, you must carry clarity. When you speak from your intuition, you must trust without control. You are no longer practicing, you are carrying, and the world can feel it. Notice how people respond to you now. There's a softness in their posture, a reverence in their voice. They don't know what changed, but they feel safer, clearer, more real around you. That's because your frequency is doing the work your mouth no longer needs to. But integration also means something harder. It means saying no to old versions of yourself. It means releasing roles that once defined you. It means walking away from dynamics that no longer match your vibration. Not in anger, but in alignment. You are not abandoning anyone. You are becoming the invitation. There is a responsibility in holding these powers. Not to be perfect, but to be awake. Awake enough to pause before reacting. Awake enough to choose when others run. Awake enough to listen when the world demands you shout. That's what it means to be the remembering one. To walk among the forgetting and carry the code without needing to convince, convert, or conform. You do not need to advertise your awakening. You need only to live it. Let your boundaries be an act of healing. Let your rest be an act of rebellion. Let your love be precise, not scattered. Let your silence be charged with clarity. Because now you know, every breath you take shapes the field. Every choice you make ripples through timelines. You are no longer just living life. You are conducting it. There's a story told in the East of a man who, after years of spiritual mastery, returned to his village and was met with disbelief. He didn't glow. He didn't preach. He simply swept the streets and fed the hungry. But everywhere he went, miracles happened. He didn't need to say who he was. His presence told the story. You are becoming that story now. Let this final practice guide you. Live like the light is always watching. Not with fear, but with sacred awareness. When you speak, speak to the soul. When you walk, walk with the ancestors. When you eat, eat with gratitude. When you breathe, breathe with purpose. This is not about pressure. This is about alignment. This is how you live your powers without needing to use them. Because the more integrated you become, the less you need to try. The vibration speaks before you enter the room. The energy shifts before your hand even reaches out. You don't need to do, you only need to be. And when you are fully being, rooted, clear, humble, radiant, you are not just the vessel of the powers. You are the power itself. You are the memory that walks, the vibration that teaches, the silence that heals, the presence that activates. Let the world feel you before they understand you. Let your embodiment speak the language that your mind no longer needs to explain. Let your life become the unspoken initiation that invites others to awaken. Not because you told them to, but because your energy reminded them who they are. This is not the end of your power. This is the beginning of your transmission. So now, beloved rememberer, pause. Feel what has awakened in you. The words may be ending, but something far more permanent has taken root. You are not the same person who began this journey. You are not reaching. You are radiating. Let the others chase the spectacle. You will carry the sacred. You know now that your mind can hear without ears, that your vision is not limited by form, that your knowing transcends logic. You have remembered how to shape the unseen, how to walk in stillness that roars, how to hold another's pain without taking it on. You've left the body and come back, not to escape the world, but to love it deeper, and that love has changed you. Let the world call you strange. Let the noise mock what it can't comprehend. You don't walk for approval. You walk for alignment. You are the bridge now, the thin line between what is and what could be, between the forgetting and the remembering, between the wound and the light. You no longer need to chase power. You are power in its quietest, purest, most embodied form. So carry this, not as armor, but as invitation. Walk into rooms like a frequency. Breathe like a blessing. Touch like a prayer. Speak only when the energy asks you to. Rest when the field calls you inward. Live not as a seeker, but as a signal. Because now, you don't just know your gifts. You are the gift, the soul that walks with clarity. The presence that reminds others of their light, the memory that activates memories, the ripple that becomes the wave. This is your legacy. This is your offering. This is your vow, to be the one who remembers and lives as if you never forgot.